Hey guys, welcome to Me, Myself, and I.
So I'm Naomi.
And I'm Niti.
So our channel is all about dating, sex, and psychology.
And you can find us on Spotify, TikTok, and Instagram.
So stay tuned. You know how oftentimes people are like, oh, back in the day, that old school love.
Yeah.
Do you think our parents had it better than we did?
Honestly, that's such a hard question to respond to, but I feel like there's pros and cons for both. So I feel like, okay, we look at the cons.
Yeah.
The cons of online dating now, how we have all these options. There's catfishing, which obviously didn't exist back in their age.
Exactly.
You don't know who you're meeting, and they can be catfishing so many things.
Yeah, they could be catfishing their personality. They could seem super cool and chill, maybe even flirty online, and in person they're awkward or looks wise. I mean, there's a whole show called Catfish. People catfish their looks all the time. So in person you might be disappointed. So that is a big thing. Whereas back in the day, you're meeting them on the spot, so you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays it's kind of I hope he looks good in person, you know?
Yeah, and I feel now, it's also a trust thing. I feel you can't really trust, when you meet someone for the first time. Because, they could be lying about what they do. On their profile, they could lie about, many different things. And, you almost just, have to be hey, I don't actually know. Because, height.
I've met guys who lied about their height. It's
all
so
guys
annoying.
lie about their freaking height on dating apps.
I feel with dating apps, people present themselves the way that they want to look and not how they actually are sometimes. I mean, not all cases. Of course, there's still gonna be genuine people, but you can run into that a lot where it's oh, you look like this online, but in person it's this is not you.
Yeah. And also, I do think a lot nowadays, which kind of sucks, it's we're a lot more focused on the shallow things like looks.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, when you're swiping, what are you swiping on? Mostly looks.
Yeah, you're not even
shallow.
reading the description half the time. You're just, there's so many people that you're swiping on which you may have been a good match for them, but because you're so focused on looks, you just miss it. And also sometimes you might be going for a certain type look wise too, whereas in person it's a lot of times there are people coming up to you and there's more chance of just meeting. You're just gonna meet a different variety of people.
Yeah.
If you're only going for a certain type of look, you are missing out on so much more. I feel
I feel back then you wouldn't right now we're automatically no.
Yeah.
Based on looks, whereas you might give someone a chance in person.
Yeah.
And it is shallow. I think in general it's just sad. You shouldn't be judging a book by its cover all the time.
Exactly. I just feel in person, even just something simple getting hit on at a bar, someone comes up to you, obviously you drink, the conversation can go a lot differently. It might be oh, what do you do for work? Oh, do you live in this area? Just more just a regular, just chill, casual conversation. Whereas online, a lot of times it can start out sexual, hey, you look really good to me. When can I meet you? Yeah, Tinder. The conversation already starts off sexually. Whereas in person, I think there's a lot. It's more your classic courting.
And you might connect with somebody in person on something that you wouldn't have known online.
Exactly.
You know, I feel I think there is more options, but it's just we're focusing on more shallow things when it's online. And then also the hookup culture. I do think that this online dating has really took hookup culture freaking
to the next
times
level.
100. I don't think I don't honestly know if hookup culture existed.
Yeah, back in the day, I don't know if hookup culture was as
if
big
anyone
as it
wants
is
to let
today.
me know.
You can have no one at the start of the day, and by the end of the night you can find someone to hook up with, just with an app.
Yeah. But I would say as a con, I think hookup culture has become really big, in terms of dating. That's steering away from finding love.
Yeah.
How our parents were more looking for, and I feel it's kind of made everything very sexual, which some people might not say is bad. They might say oh, I'm able to have sex and not have to be in a relationship, which is
But
better,
I think with the hookup culture, I think people are looking for relationship committed, stable relationships later now. I think before it's I think it would start a bit earlier because there was less of that hookup culture. There's less choice, so you're not gonna take as long. I think when there's so much choice, you want to prolong the hookup culture a bit more because you're oh my god, so many options. I'm not done yet. Whereas before it may have been okay, I had my little. I did that in high school with the people in my area, and now you're.
Yeah.
No, maybe it was that. I'm not sure though.
Okay, but if we look at pros of today, I think variety.
I think they have variety for sure. You can put your location to anywhere. You can meet people from anywhere. You can find people who speak the same language as you, similar jobs, because it's all there usually in the description. So if you want to date different cultures or religions, you can definitely find that online easier instead of being in person and asking each individual person. You kind of sort through it quicker.
Because when I ask people how their parents met, it's usually through somebody or like a friend of a friend. Whereas now, like I'm not even kidding, you could find someone in a different country right now on Bumble or Tinder.
Yeah.
And it's like you have so many options. And like, I think that's a good thing because maybe you're more likely to find a better match.
That's true. Yeah, you're not just restricted to the city that you live in. Like the world is
even
your
the
oyster.
city though. Imagine with no phones.
I would not want to be restricted
but
to the city for dating.
But I'm thinking like, would you have even met everybody in the city? No.
And yeah, it's like whatever area.
You're probably
you're
meeting in like your freaking friend of like only friends, like only family.
Yeah, within like a certain radius. Like you're probably missing like
a whole like thing of people. And so like I think like maybe you have a better match, but I think there's a con to having too many options.
Yeah.
Because I think it's good to have many options and be like, yeah, okay, find this perfect person after like swiping or like talking to hundreds of people. But then when you have too many options, I think that it makes it more like you're giving you a reason to almost like leave or like not need to stay.
Yeah. You're
Because
not going to put more effort into like making it work. You're like, okay, well.
There's so like look at grass is green on the other side. Like there's so many options like other. It's almost like in the back of your head you know that if this doesn't work, oh look, I have hundreds of other people.
Like I think now we kind of like I think we give up on people a bit more easily now because like I think when one thing goes wrong, it's like, oh, done, I'll go look for someone else. Whereas like the problem may actually not have been that bad, but because we have so many options, it's like you're just so quick to like not even work through the issue. If you can, you're just like, okay, like I don't like it, bye. Like,
and I don't know, because it could be looked at either way. It could be like back then, like they would stay with something that maybe they like didn't love, or like it was kind of like a lot of work, and it shouldn't have been because they don't think they have any other options. And I think people could look at it and be like, oh well, now like look at. But
people
like
definitely put up with less bullshit, like definitely. But I think sometimes they're just like minor issues. That, like or like a little argument, for example. And you're like, okay, I'm done with you. Maybe like that wasn't a big enough reason to leave, but like it seems like it is sometimes.
Yeah, and I think we didn't even think about actually if you go back to like the cons, like easier to cheat.
Wait,
it's way easier to cheat now.
nowadays. Oh, of course, yeah. I was gonna say
way easier to cheat. In 5 seconds, you can freaking go on. What's it called? Ashley Madison. That's literally meant like websites meant for people to cheat.
You can archive, you can block, you can hide. Like you can. There's so much with the internet you can do to.
That goes with the options. There's so many options.
Yeah, but there's also a lot. You can hide a lot too.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I think it was more like word of mouth. Like you overheard or someone. There's gossip.
And also, if you wanted to cheat, you'd have to like literally go out, find somebody. Like,
meet
someone
organically. Yeah. It's more effort to cheat. Like you have to find someone.
More effort to cheat.
That would have been.
You need to put more effort.
Yeah, but like now it's just like a swipe with a finger. You can find someone to cheat with.
Yeah, and I think we talked about like getting to meet different people from like different sexualities, like
that too. Yeah,
religions,
that's a really big
race.
Thing. I think for people like who are different, like who have different sexualities and stuff, I think back in the day would have been a lot harder. But nowadays, you can. There's even dating sites for that.
For
like
you, Grindr.
It's way. I think it's whatever type of person you are, like you can definitely find that way easier on the internet now. Whereas like before, I think it was easier to date if you were like the conventional, like just straight cis, like cisgender person. So I think that's something too.
I think there's pros and cons, but like in terms of like did our parents like have it better? Like
I do think the relationship quality was
better,
a little bit better. I think
there's a lot more divorces now.
Yeah, I just think they were more focused on each other. I think now like everyone's just turning heads.
I think like now we're more individualistic, so like we're trying to find someone who fits into our life. Like who fits into my life, And
before they wanted to like more grow. I mean, people still want to grow with a significant other now, but it's like I think there is more emphasis on like your personal life, like making sure you have everything first, and then like seeing who fits into that. The
mindset was very different. It was like we are gonna grow together. It's a very we not and we're so immature. Now it's like me.
Yeah.
And I think like, it's actually good for a relationship when it's like we're gonna go together, we're gonna expand a family. How can we make this work? Because you're both going into it with like a shared goal, and also there was pressure from family.
I was gonna say I think there was more pressure from family before, and just not only pressure from family, but pressure to have a family. I think too.
Yeah.
Like okay, where are the kids? When am I gonna be a grandparent? Like, where's your husband? Whereas like now it's like, what's your career? Like that's more what I think your parents, like just as a young adult, like I feel like my parents are more like, okay, what are you doing with your life? More than like
go find a partner.
Go find a partner.
Back then it was like go find a partner, reproduce. I feel like that was like more
I think that was more pushed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like either way, like it's not.
And they also did less school, right? Like not everyone was getting a PhD. Like, like it was just like either high school or bachelor.
I think in general there's to our lives than our partner and like our kids. Like I think there's like our hobbies, careers, there's friendships, like there's a lot more things that we emphasize, whereas back then like that was like really the focus. So like if you wanted to leave, even it's like I'm not really gonna find anybody else anyways, like you know what I'm saying, like, you have less hope, I think, if you were to leave. So like it's literally like I'm gonna leave in what, so like might as well make this work.
Yeah, like this is who I've already started my life with, like I might as well finish type of thing.
Yeah I think it's just like the options. I think the options is probably the main difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know who had it better overall, because we didn't live in that generation.
Social media too is also part of like dating now, right? Like I don't know, social media I feel like is a big part of relationships now, whereas like they didn't have that back in the day, so things were less like for the camera.
I do think people were a lot more present back then, and I feel like I miss that. Like I wish.
Yeah, like even just going on a first date, like, and not having a phone to check on when like it gets quieter, like little things like that. Because I think now people like a lot of people on first dates like are literally on their phones, like. I don't know.
Yeah.
At least I try not to, but like and the people I've dated like haven't really been on their phone, but I've like heard situations where it's like, oh, the guy was on his phone the whole time, and I'm like,
you're not as present.
Yeah.
And even if you're dating them, like let's say you actually do end up dating them, like it's just I feel like you're less in
just
this
in the moment
with this person, which can ultimately probably like make changes in intimacy.
They may have been more intimate like at an earlier stage or like faster, or I don't know, just more intimate in overall, because yeah, like I feel like the phones are a distraction, and like just even just chilling like at home, like they, unless you're both watching TV together or something, like there's not really like a screen like they're both looking at, like or separately, like they're doing things more together, whereas like now like
I do think
some people even work from their phones, like it's just there's more distractions now. I think
like now I do think in some ways it is better how they used to have it.
It could be a bit more intimate,
and I think like relationships had much better like longevity.